The data stream flickered across Ambassador Rilland's vision, numbers and charts that should have brought excitement but instead filled him with unease. His feathers ruffled involuntarily as he reviewed the discovery for the third time that cycle. Somewhere in the outer spiral arm, a world called Earth had been broadcasting radio signals for over a century, yet nobody had noticed. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Station Harmony buzzed with the usual chaos of galactic governance. Delegates from 40 different species argued about trade routes and mineral rights while Rilland sat in his small office, staring at images of blue oceans and green continents. The humans looked remarkably similar to several other bipedal species in the council. 2 arms, 2 legs, forward-facing eyes. Nothing particularly special about them at first glance. Director Vashin appeared in the doorway without announcement, as was his habit. The security chief's scales reflected the soft lighting and patterns that Rilland had learned to read over the years. Right now, those patterns spelled suspicion. "You found something interesting?" Vashin said, not asking. "A new species, pre-FTL but clearly developing toward space travel. I want to recommend first contact." Rilland transmitted the files directly to Vashin's neural interface. Vashin processed the information in silence for several moments. "Their biological markers are flagging some matches in our database." "Matches? How is that possible? This is a completely isolated world." "Unknown origin individuals. We have 17 registered council citizens whose home worlds were never properly identified. Their biosignatures share similarities with these humans." Vashin's scales shifted to deeper concern. "The probability of random convergent evolution creating this many similarities is below acceptable thresholds." Rilland felt his chest tighten. In 3 decades of diplomatic service, he had overseen 12 first contact scenarios. None had ever triggered database anomalies. "Could be a glitch. The Outer Arm archives are notoriously corrupted." "Could be," Vashin agreed, but his tone suggested he believed otherwise. "I will investigate while you prepare the contact protocols. If there is a connection, I will find it." 2 levels below in the archives division, a junior analyst named Petra sat surrounded by holographic displays. She had been running comparison algorithms. All shift, trying to understand why the new discovery kept triggering false positives in the citizen registry. Every time she thought she had isolated the problem, another match appeared. One file caught her attention. A maintenance worker named Garrett who had transferred to Station Harmony 5 years ago from one of the outer colonies. His personnel record listed his species as Telvin, but his genetic markers showed a 93% match to the newly discovered humans. She pulled up his profile image. The resemblance was undeniable once you looked past the cosmetic differences. Petra drafted a report to her supervisor, flagging the discrepancy for review. Before she could send it, her terminal flashed a priority override. The message was brief and came from an untraceable source within the station's own network. "Stop your investigation. You are not ready for what you will find." She stared at the words, her heart's racing. Someone was watching her work, someone with high-level access to station systems. Petra hesitated, her finger hovering over the send button for her report. Then she deleted it and cleared her search history. Some mysteries were better left alone, at least until she understood what she was dealing with. In the council chamber, Rilland presented his findings to the assembled delegates. The holographic display showed Earth rotating slowly above the central platform, its moon visible in the distance. He kept his presentation simple and factual, avoiding speculation about the database anomalies Vashin had discovered. "The humans have developed nuclear technology and have sent primitive probes beyond their immediate orbital space. All indicators suggest they will achieve FTL capability within the next 50 to 100 cycles. I recommend we initiate contact now, under controlled circumstances, rather than risk an unplanned encounter later." Councillor Brath, representing the military interests, leaned forward. "What do we know of their temperament? Are they aggressive?" "They have internal conflicts, as most pre-contact species do. but they also show remarkable cooperation on global initiatives. Their art and literature suggest a capacity for empathy and complex moral reasoning. The vote was nearly unanimous. The Council authorized a diplomatic mission to Earth to be led by Rillan himself. Standard protocols would be followed. The contact team would approach peacefully, broadcast greetings in multiple frequencies, and wait for the humans to respond before proceeding further. As the session ended and delegates filed out discussing the historic moment, a coded transmission left Station Harmony on a tight beam frequency. It traveled across the void toward Earth, arriving at a receiving station hidden beneath the Swiss Alps. The message was simple but carried immense weight. They are coming, first contact approved. Maintain operational security. Project Veil must not be compromised. Director Hayes read the message 3 times before calling the emergency session. Around the conference table sat men and women who officially did not exist, running a program that had no public record. For 80 years, they had been sending humans into space, disguising them as other species, embedding them deep within alien society. And now the very aliens they had been spying on were coming to Earth to make first contact. Recommendations, Hayes asked the room. Commander Brooks spoke first. We reveal ourselves, tell them the truth before they discover it. And lose every asset we have in place. Dr. Patel shook her head. We have people in Council security, in their military, in their research divisions. That intelligence has kept Earth safe for decades. Agent Riley's image appeared on the screen, transmitting from somewhere in alien territory. I am on the contact team. They chose me because of my diplomatic experience. The irony would be funny if the stakes were not so high. Hayes made his decision. We play along. Earth pretends this is first contact. Our embedded agents maintain their covers. Riley, you will be our eyes on that ship. If anything goes wrong, you extract and we burn the whole program. Riley nodded. Understood. What about the others? There are at least 20 human agents in critical positions on Station Harmony alone. They stay in place. This is what we trained for. Hayes looked at each face in the room. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for 80 years. The aliens just do not know it yet. Let us keep it that way. The meeting adjourned. Preparations began on both sides of the approaching encounter, each believing they controlled the narrative of first contact, neither realizing that someone else had been orchestrating events from the very beginning. Vashan had lived long enough to trust his instincts, and right now every scale on his body told him something was wrong. He sat in the secure analysis room, surrounded by holographic files that should not exist. 17 citizens of unknown origin, all registered within the past 80 cycles, all sharing genetic markers with the newly discovered humans. The probability calculations mocked him from the display. 1 in 7 billion that this was coincidence. He pulled up surveillance footage from various sections of Station Harmony, focusing on the individuals flagged by the system. A technician named Garrett working in environmental controls. A cultural liaison named Foster assigned to the education sector. A medical researcher named Chen who had published groundbreaking papers on cross-species compatibility. They all looked different on the surface. Different skin tones, different modifications, different claimed species origins. But when he stripped away the cosmetic alterations and looked at the underlying bone structure, they were identical to the humans from Earth. Vashan opened a secure channel to his most trusted field agent. I need discrete biological samples from the individuals on this list. Do not alert them to the investigation. While Vashan worked in secret, the diplomatic vessel Bright Herald prepared for its historic mission. The ship gleamed in the docking bay, freshly painted with the Council's symbols of peace and cooperation. Agent Riley stood in the crew quarters, looking at his reflection in the polished metal wall. His modifications were perfect. Slight alterations to his bone structure, pigmentation changes, cosmetic implants that made him appear as a Telvin. He had lived as one for 15 years, long enough that he sometimes forgot what his original face looked like. long enough that lying had become second nature. Nervous about the big moment? The voice belonged to Dr. Orthan, the xenobiologist assigned to the contact team. She was genuinely kind, genuinely excited about meeting a new species. Riley felt a stab of guilt. "Just hoping everything goes smoothly," he said, keeping his voice neutral. "It will. First contact is always beautiful when it is done right. I have studied the human broadcasts. They seem curious about the universe, creative, emotional. I think we will get along well with them." Riley nodded, not trusting himself to speak. If only she knew that humans had been getting along with them for decades already. On Earth, the performance was already beginning. News networks showed prepared footage of observatories detecting the approaching alien vessel. World leaders delivered carefully scripted statements about this momentous occasion. Scientists who had been studying alien technology for years pretended to speculate wildly about what the visitors might be like. Director Hayes watched the media coverage from the underground facility, surrounded by monitors showing multiple perspectives. One screen displayed the public news feeds. Another showed classified military tracking of the Bright Herald. A third showed live feeds from their embedded agents across Council territory, including Riley's personal camera. "The acting is good," Commander Brooks admitted, watching a physicist on television express wonder at the possibility of faster-than-light travel. "Almost makes me believe we don't already have 3 FTL drives in storage." "Selling the lie is not what worries me," Hayes said. "It is maintaining it long-term. Every interaction is a chance for someone to slip up." Dr. Patel pulled up a biological scan on her workstation. "I am more concerned about their medical technology. If they run any serious genetic analysis on a human delegation member, they will see through our agent's modifications. The cosmetic work is good, but it will not fool a deep tissue scan. Then we make sure they do not have a reason to run deep scans. Keep everything friendly and superficial." Hayes turned to the communications officer. "What is Riley's status?" "Bright Herald is 3 days from Earth. Riley reports the crew is excited but professional. No signs that anyone suspects the truth." Except Vashin, Hayes thought but did not say aloud. Their intelligence suggested the security chief was asking uncomfortable questions. If anyone was going to unravel Project Veil, it would be him. Back on Station Harmony, Petra the analyst had not stopped her investigation despite the warning. She worked during off hours now, using personal equipment that was not connected to the main network. The patterns she found were disturbing. Every one of the unknown origin individuals had appeared during periods of high station traffic when tracking was difficult. Everyone had impeccable credentials that somehow could not be fully verified. Everyone held positions that granted access to sensitive information or critical systems. She created a visual map connecting the individuals through their work relationships and information access. The network that emerged was comprehensive and deliberate. If these were spies, they had infiltrated nearly every major system on the station. Her terminal chimed with an incoming message. Private channel encrypted. She almost did not open it, but curiosity won. "You should stop while you still can. But if you will not stop, at least be careful who you trust with what you find. The truth is bigger than you imagine." Petra's hands shook as she read the message. Whoever was sending these warnings was watching her closely, knew exactly what she was discovering. But they were not stopping her, almost as if they wanted her to find the truth, but on her own terms. She thought about going to her supervisor about filing an official report, but something held her back. The message was right about one thing: she did not know who to trust. Aboard the Bright Herald, Riley participated in final briefing sessions with the contact team. They reviewed human language patterns, cultural norms derived from broadcast analysis, appropriate gift protocols. Ambassador Rillan led the discussions with genuine enthusiasm. "Remember, we are ambassadors for all council species. First impressions matter tremendously. Show respect, show curiosity, show peaceful intent." Riley wanted to laugh at the irony. The humans already knew everything about Council species. They had been living among them, working beside them, befriending them for 80 years. This entire elaborate first contact ritual was theater. But theater served a purpose. It maintained the intelligence network that kept Earth safe. It preserved advantages that might be needed if relations ever turned hostile. And perhaps most importantly, it bought time to understand threats that even the Council might not be aware of. The bright herald crossed into Earth's solar system, broadcasting greetings in 40 different languages. On Earth, carefully selected response teams sent replies filled with wonder and cautious optimism. The dance had begun, and both sides believed they were leading. Vashan received his biological samples and immediately ran them through the most sophisticated analysis available. The results confirmed his suspicions and raised new questions. The genetic markers were human, no doubt about it. But the modifications were so sophisticated that they must have required decades of development and practice, which meant either humans had achieved advanced biotechnology far beyond their apparent development level, or someone had been helping them for a very long time. He needed to brief Ambassador Rillan before they reached Earth, but something made him hesitate. If there was a conspiracy this deep, this widespread, who could he really trust? The bright herald settled into high orbit above Earth, while billions of humans watched screens showing the alien vessel against the backdrop of space. For most of them, this was truly the first glimpse of life beyond their world. For a select few, it was a carefully choreographed performance they had been rehearsing for decades. Riley stood at his station on the bridge, monitoring communication channels. His hands moved across holographic controls with practiced ease, the kind of ease that came from years of training. He caught himself and deliberately slowed down, adding small hesitations that someone new to the technology might show. Ambassador Rillan addressed Earth directly, his image transmitted to every major network on the planet. People of Earth, we come in peace and friendship. The Galactic Council extends greetings to your species and welcomes you to the community of spacefaring civilizations. The response came from Geneva, from Secretary General Williams, whose speech had been written by Project Veil's best psychologists to sound appropriately awed yet composed. On behalf of humanity, we accept your greeting with gratitude and wonder. We have long dreamed of this moment. At least that part was not a lie, Riley thought. Humanity had dreamed of open contact with alien species. They just had not waited for permission before making it happen. In the command center beneath Geneva, Hayes watched multiple feeds simultaneously. One showed the public broadcast, another showed encrypted communication between embedded agents. A third displayed real-time intelligence from Riley's position on the Bright Herald. Phase 1 complete, Commander Brooks announced. Global response is proceeding as planned, no major deviations from the script. What about Vashan? Hayes asked. Dr. Patel pulled up a surveillance intercept. He has been running genetic analysis on station personnel. He knows something is wrong, but he has not shared his findings with Rillan yet. Why not? Best guess, he is trying to understand the full scope before raising. Alarms, he is a thorough investigator. Patel looked worried, which makes him dangerous to us. Hayes considered the options. They could try to compromise Vashan's investigation, plant false data to throw him off track. But that risked drawing more attention. Better to proceed as planned and adapt if necessary. Riley is about to transport down as part of the formal delegation. Make sure he knows about Vashan's investigation. On Earth, selected officials gathered at a secure location for the first face-to-face meeting with the alien visitors. Among them were genuine government leaders and scientists, but also 3 Project Veil agents returning home after years in deep cover. They would help guide the humans through protocols they had helped establish. Agent Foster felt strange being back on Earth after 12 years living on Station Harmony. The gravity felt too strong, the air too thick, the sky too close. She had adapted so completely to life in space that her home world felt alien now. Nervous? Asked Agent Chen, who stood beside her in the reception hall. About seeing our friends and colleagues from the station while pretending not to know them. Yes, a little. Think of it as the ultimate test of our training. Besides, I am more worried about what happens after first contact. How do we maintain this deception long-term? Before Foster could answer, the transport beam materialized and 6 figures appeared. Ambassador Rillan, Dr. Orthan, 2 security officers, a cultural specialist, and Riley. Foster locked eyes with Riley for a fraction of a second, acknowledging him without expression, then turned her attention to the aliens she was supposed to be meeting for the first time. Rillan stepped forward and bowed in the traditional council gesture of respect. The humans returned the gesture, as Project Veil had prepared them to do, though they made it look slightly awkward as if copying something they had just observed. "Thank you for welcoming us to your beautiful world," Rillan said. "We have much to learn from each other." Secretary General Williams smiled warmly. "We are honored by your presence. Please, let us begin our discussions in comfort." The formal talks proceeded smoothly. Too smoothly, Riley noticed. The humans asked sophisticated questions about council governance and trade systems, questions that showed deeper understanding than a truly isolated species should possess. They proposed communication protocols that matched council standards almost perfectly. They even used hand gestures that were common in galactic diplomacy. Dr. Orthan seemed delighted by how quickly the humans grasped complex concepts. Riley could see her excitement, her genuine belief that humanity was exceptionally intelligent and adaptable. In a way, she was right, just not for the reasons she thought. During a brief recess, Riley found himself alone with Agent Foster in a corridor. They had 30 seconds before being noticed. "Vashin knows," Riley whispered. "He has genetic evidence. He has not confronted anyone yet, but it is only a matter of time." Foster processed this quickly. "Do we abort?" "Hayes says maintain cover unless directly compromised, but be ready." Back on Station Harmony, Petra finally made her decision. She requested a private meeting with Director Vashin, sending the request through official channels where it could not be easily ignored or disappeared. If the conspiracy was as deep as she suspected, going to anyone else might be dangerous. Vashin received her request with interest. The young analyst had been investigating the same anomalies he was pursuing. He approved the meeting immediately. When Petra entered his office, she carried a data chip containing all her findings. She placed it on his desk without saying a word. Vashin reviewed the contents quickly. The map of connected individuals, the timeline of arrivals, the pattern of information access. It confirmed everything he had discovered independently. "You understand what this suggests?" he asked her. "Either we have a massive security breach spanning decades, or we have been infiltrated by an unknown party with sophisticated biological technology and long-term strategic planning. And if the unknown party is the humans we are currently making first contact with." Petra sat down heavily. "Then first contact is not what we think it is." Vashin made a decision. He opened a secure channel to the Bright Herald, requesting immediate private communication with Ambassador Rillan. But the transmission was intercepted by Riley, who saw the request and understood what it meant. The investigation had reached a critical point. In minutes, Rillan would know that humans had been living among council species for decades. The choice was simple: maintain the deception and risk everything, or come clean and hope for understanding. Riley sent a flash message back to Earth. "Compromise imminent, request guidance." Hayes stared at the message, knowing that the next decision would determine the future of Earth's relationship with the galaxy. Decades of careful work were about to either pay off or catastrophically fail. Before he could respond, alarms screamed throughout the command center. Every screen showed the same thing: massive unknown vessels entering the solar system from multiple vectors, their technology decades beyond anything the Council possessed. "Sir, we are being hailed," the communications officer said, voice shaking. They are calling themselves the architects. They say Earth belongs to them. Everything changed in the span of a heartbeat. The architect vessels materialized with technology that bent physics in ways even council scientists had never imagined. 12 massive ships, each larger than Station Harmony itself, surrounded Earth in a perfect geometric formation. Riley abandoned all pretense. He ran to the bridge of the Bright Herald, past confused crew members, and accessed the defense systems with authorization codes he should not have possessed. Alarms blared as he overrode safety protocols. "What are you doing?" Rillan demanded, rushing to his station. "You do not have clearance for those systems." "No time to explain," Riley said, his hands flying across controls. "Those ships are targeting population centers on Earth. Estimated casualty count is 3 billion in the first strike." "How do you know our weapon systems well enough to activate them so quickly?" Riley turned to face the ambassador, making a split-second decision that would change everything. "Because I am human. I have been living on your station for 15 years, and right now that does not matter because we are all about to die unless we work together." The bridge went silent. Dr. Orthan stared at Riley as if seeing him for the first time. The security officers reached for their weapons but hesitated, unsure how to process this revelation. Rillan's feathers flattened against his body, a sign of extreme shock. "You are human, but your records, your biology. Modified, we have been among you for 80 years. Riley pulled up the tactical display. "Please, Ambassador, we can discuss my lies later. Right now, those ships are charging weapons." On Earth, Hayes watched the architect vessels with growing horror. Every analysis showed the same conclusion. Humanity had no defense against this technology. Even with the weapons they had reverse-engineered from alien salvage, Earth's forces were hopelessly outmatched. "Broadcast on all channels," Hayes ordered. "Emergency deployment of all assets. I want every human agent in Council territory to reveal themselves and assist with defense coordination." "Sir, that will expose the entire program," Commander Brooks protested. "The program does not matter if everyone is dead." Across Council space, human agents dropped their disguises. On Station Harmony, the technician named Garrett accessed emergency defense systems. In the Council Military Command, an officer named Chen began coordinating rapid response fleets. On the diplomatic vessel, Foster helped evacuate civilians while establishing secure communication networks. Vashon watched his monitors in disbelief as 17 unknown origin individuals simultaneously revealed themselves as human and began taking command of critical systems with obvious expertise and authorization that should not exist. "They have been here the whole time," he said to Petra, who stood frozen beside him. "Living among us, working beside us, protecting systems they helped build. Should we stop them?" Vashon looked at the tactical display showing the architect ships preparing to fire. "No, we should help them." The architects broadcast their message to both Earth and the Bright Herald. The voice that came through was cold and mechanical, stripped of emotion. "The world designated Earth 774 has reached harvest maturity. All biological entities will be processed. Resistance is futile and will only increase suffering." "Earth 774, Rillan repeated, confused. "They have been here before." Riley pulled up historical data from his personal archive, information he had gathered during years of intelligence work. "The architects have done this before, 43 times in the past 6,000 years. They find promising species, watch them develop, then harvest their worlds when they reach technological maturity." "How do you know this?" "Because one of their damaged vessels crashed on Earth in 1945. The pilot survived long enough to warn us about what was coming. Everything we have done since then, all the infiltration and secrecy, was preparation for this day." Dr. Orthan spoke up, her voice shaking. "The pilot taught you our technology, helped you integrate into our society." "Yes," he said, "our only chance was to hide among other species, learn from them, build alliances before the architects returned." Riley met her eyes. I am sorry we deceived you, but we did it to survive. The bright herald shook as architect weapons opened fire. The first salvo targeted orbital platforms and satellite networks. Earth's hastily deployed defense grid activated, shields that should not exist flaring to life around major cities. Impossible, Rillen breathed. Those are military-grade planetary shields. You would need decades of research and development to create them. We had 80 years, Riley said quietly, and we knew what was coming. On Station Harmony, Vashin made a choice that went against every regulation in his security manual. He opened full military access to the human agents and authorized them to coordinate Council forces. Within minutes, a defense network emerged that spanned both human and alien systems, working in harmony despite the species involved never having officially cooperated before. Foster coordinated evacuation protocols for the civilian areas of the station. Chen directed Council warships into defensive formations around Earth. Garrett rerouted power systems to maximize shield efficiency. They worked with the speed and confidence of people who had spent years preparing for exactly this scenario. Rillan watched Riley coordinate with Earth forces, speaking in rapid bursts of technical language that showed intimate familiarity with both human and Council systems. The deception was massive and disturbing, but right now it was also humanity's greatest asset. "How many of you are there?" Rillan asked. "How deep does this infiltration go?" 417 embedded agents in Council territory, another 3,000 support personnel on Earth. We have people in your military, your research divisions, your government offices. Riley paused his work to look at Rillan directly. "But we never sabotaged anything, never hurt anyone. We gathered intelligence and built defenses because we knew the architects would come eventually." "And you never thought to warn us, to ask for help? Would you have believed us? Would you have risked your people on the word of a primitive species claiming ancient aliens were coming to harvest worlds?" Riley shook his head. "We had to be able to protect ourselves first, had to. Prove we were capable partners, not helpless victims needing rescue." The bright herald's shields buckled under another barrage. The ship would not survive much longer in orbit. Rillan made a decision. "All power to engines. We are returning to Station Harmony to coordinate a proper defense." He looked at Riley. "You will help us. We will discuss your deception later if we survive." Riley nodded. "Thank you, Ambassador." As the bright herald accelerated away from Earth, carrying both humans and aliens working frantically side by side, the architects deployed their next weapon. A pulse of energy that swept across the planet, targeting all electronic systems. But Earth systems did not fail. The EMP shielding held, technology designed specifically to counter architect weapons based on intelligence from the crashed pilot 80 years ago. For the first time, the architects encountered prey that had been preparing for them. For the first time, they faced a species that had turned first contact into a strategic advantage rather than a moment of vulnerable wonder. The harvest would not be easy. Station Harmony transformed into a fortress within hours. Human agents and Council personnel worked together in a synchronized chaos that should not have been possible between species who had supposedly just met. But the deception had an unexpected benefit. The humans already knew how to work with their alien counterparts. Vashin stood in the command center alongside Hayes, who had transported up from Earth when the fighting began. The human director studied tactical displays with the calm focus of someone who had been planning for this moment his entire career. "Your pilot from 1945, Vashin said. "He told you everything about the architects." Everything he knew. His species was harvested 2,000 years ago. He was part of a resistance movement that survived in hidden bases. When his ship crashed on Earth, he made us promise to be ready. Hayes pulled up schematics. "He also told us something your council does not know. The architects were not always conquerors." "What do you mean?" "They were victims first. Another species, older and more powerful, did to them what they now do to others. The architects believe the only way to survive is to harvest resources and grow stronger before their ancient enemy returns. Vashan processed this, so they are trapped in a cycle, creating new enemies to fight an old one. Exactly, which means they might be reasoned with if we can offer them another path. On the Bright Herald, Riley worked beside Dr. Orthan analyzing architect ship configurations. The xenobiologist had gotten over her initial shock and now focused entirely on the problem at hand. Her ability to compartmentalize impressed Riley. Their shields regenerate using energy from nearby stars, she observed. Standard weapons will not penetrate efficiently. We need to disrupt their power collection first. Earth has something that might work, Riley said, pulling up classified files he had never been authorized to share. Solar field disruptors. We developed them from technology salvaged from the crashed ship. You reverse-engineered architect technology in 80 years. We had help. The pilot gave us the theoretical framework. Human engineers just had to build it. Riley sent the specifications to the defense network. It has never been tested at this scale, but the simulations were promising. Rillan entered the lab, his feathers still showing signs of stress. I spoke with the Council leadership. They are authorizing full military cooperation with Earth. Your actions during the crisis, despite the deception, have earned temporary trust. Temporary? Riley asked. We will have much to discuss when this is over. Treaties to renegotiate, laws to clarify, consequences to consider. Rillan's expression softened. But you did save thousands of lives when you revealed yourselves. That counts for something. Foster coordinated evacuation efforts from a secondary command center, working with Council civilians who hours ago had been her friends and colleagues. Many looked at her differently now, betrayal clear in their expressions. Others seemed more confused than angry. A young Telvan child approached her during a quiet moment. Are you really a human, like the ones on Earth? Foster knelt to the child's level. Yes, I am. I am sorry I lied about who I was. Why did you lie? Because I was scared. My people were scared. We did not know if you would accept us. The child considered this. My parent says you helped fix the environmental systems last year when they broke, that we would have been in danger without you. I did my job. Then why does it matter what species you are? Foster felt her throat tighten. Out of the mouths of children came the simplest truth. Why did it matter when? They had been living and working together successfully for years. The battle reached a critical point when the architects deployed their harvesting beams. Massive energy columns descended toward Earth's surface, designed to strip resources and convert biological matter into raw materials. Earth's shields held, but the strain was immense. We cannot maintain this forever, Commander Brooks reported from Earth. Shield generators are already at 80% capacity. We need to neutralize those ships. Chen, coordinating Council warships from his position in the military command, had an idea. The architects expect us to target their weapons or shields. What if we target their power collection nodes instead? Force them to choose between maintaining weapons or maintaining shields. Risky, Hayes said. If we fail, we lose our only advantage. If we do nothing, the shields will fail anyway. Hayes looked at Vashan, who had been consulting with his own tactical analysts. The security chief nodded. The strategy is sound. Our combined fleet can execute it, but timing must be perfect. Then we do it together, Hayes said. Human and Council forces coordinated strike. The plan executed with precision that surprised even its architects. Earth's solar disruptors fired first, creating dead zones in the electromagnetic field the architect ships used to collect stellar energy. Council warships followed immediately, targeting the weakened collection nodes with concentrated fire. 3 architect vessels lost power collection capability. Their shields collapsed as internal systems struggled to maintain function on reserve power. For the first time since arriving, the architects were vulnerable. But they adapted quickly. The remaining 9 ships shifted formation, creating a protective grid around their damaged companions. They redirected harvesting beams from Earth to the crippled vessels, using them to cannibalize their own fleet for resources. "They are sacrificing 3 ships to power the other 9, Riley said, horrified. "They will be even stronger after this." "But fewer in number," Rillan observed. "And now we know their tactics. They value efficiency over individual preservation." Dr. Orthan pulled up biological scans from the damaged ships. "I am reading life signs aboard those vessels, crew members being converted into resources along with the ships themselves." The revelation hung heavy in the command center. The architects were not just harvesting planets. They were harvesting themselves, caught in an endless cycle of consumption and survival. "We need to break the cycle," Hayes said quietly. "Destroying them will not solve anything. There will always be more architects, more desperate species doing terrible things to survive their own fears." Vashan looked at the human director with new respect. "You are suggesting negotiation in the middle of a battle." "I am suggesting we give them what their pilot gave us 80 years ago, a warning, a chance, and a choice." Hayes opened a communication channel. "Architect vessels, this is Director Hayes of Earth. We know what was done to your species. We know you act from fear, not malice. But we also know there is another way." The architects did not respond immediately. For 30 long seconds, weapons held fire on both sides. Then a single transmission came through, carrying words that would change everything. "You know our history, how?" The communication channel crackled with a sound that might have been surprise, or might have been something older and sadder. Hayes took a breath before answering the architects, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether billions lived or died. "One of your people survived a crash on Earth 80 years ago. He was dying, but he had time to tell us everything. About your harvested world, about the ancient enemy you still fear, about the cycle of violence that has trapped you for millennia." Silence stretched across space. Then another transmission. "Impossible. No survivor from the Earth reconnaissance mission ever returned. We classified it as total loss." "He did not return to you. He stayed with us, helped us prepare for your eventual arrival. His name was Architect 774, though we called him Marcus." Hayes transmitted an image file, security footage from 1945 showing a humanoid figure teaching human scientists. "He said that if we ever faced you, we should offer you the same choice he gave us. Fight and continue the cycle or break it together." The architect fleet held position, weapons powered but not firing. On Station Harmony, Vashan monitored energy signatures from the alien vessels with growing tension. "They are conferring internally," he reported. "Their communication networks are active across all ships." Rillan stood beside Hayes, his earlier anger at human. Deception transformed into something more complex. "You kept this from us. All these years you knew about the architects and never warned the council." "Would you have believed us?" Hayes asked simply. "Would you have restructured your entire civilization based on the claims of a pre-FTL species?" "We might have investigated." "And while you investigated, the architects could have arrived. We needed to be ready to defend ourselves, not dependent on others believing our warnings." Hayes met Rillan's eyes. "I am sorry we deceived you, but I am not sorry we survived." Riley and Dr. Orthan worked together analyzing the architect's ship's internal configurations, looking for any advantage if negotiations failed. The xenobiologist had not spoken to Riley about the deception beyond their immediate work, but her movements were precise and professional. "I understand why you did it," she said finally, not looking up from her displays. "Logically, I understand the necessity, but it still hurts. We were friends. I thought I knew you." "You did know me. Everything about who I am was real. Only my species was hidden." "Only your species," she repeated with a bitter laugh. "That is not a small thing, Riley. That is fundamental." "I know, and I am sorry." Foster watched the same scene play out across Station Harmony as human agents tried to maintain working relationships with colleagues who now questioned everything they thought they knew. Trust was easy to break and hard to rebuild. even when survival demanded cooperation. The architect response came through after 10 minutes that felt like hours. If you truly possess knowledge from 774, then you know what we face. The harvesters who enslaved our species 3,000 years ago will return. They always return. We harvest resources to build strength for that inevitable confrontation. And how has that worked for you? Hayes asked. How many species have you destroyed? How many potential allies have you turned into enemies? Marcus told us about your plan, and he also told us why it would fail. You cannot harvest your way to victory. You can only create more victims who will eventually want revenge. Chen, from his position coordinating Council military forces, added his voice to the transmission. I have lived among Council species for 16 years. They are diverse, creative, and powerful. If the harvesters return, you will face them alone. Because you made everyone else your enemy, or you can face them with allies. Another long pause. Then a single architect ship broke formation, moving slowly toward Station Harmony. Weapons were powered down, but shields remained active. We propose direct negotiation, face to face. We will send a delegation if you guarantee safe passage. Hayes looked at Rillan, who nodded slowly. The Council guarantees safe passage for diplomatic talks. The next hours transformed the crisis into something unprecedented. Architect delegates materialized in Station Harmony's main conference chamber, their appearance causing visible shock among the assembled council members. They looked almost human beneath their mechanical augmentations, a reminder that they had once been victims before becoming perpetrators. The lead architect identified herself as Commander Veth. She spoke with directness that cut through diplomatic niceties. 774 was my predecessor in reconnaissance operations. We thought he was lost. You are saying he chose to stay with you. He was dying, Hayes explained. But he used his remaining time to ensure we would survive. He said his biggest regret was that his own people had forgotten how to break cycles of violence. Veth absorbed this. We have been preparing for the harvester's return for 3,000 years. Every resource harvested, every world processed, every ship built has been for that purpose. And you suggest we simply stop. I suggest you build alliances instead of weapons. Unite species instead of destroying them. Hayes gestured to the mixed human and council personnel in the room. We have been secretly integrated into council society for 8 decades. In that time, we have learned that cooperation creates strength weapons cannot match. Rillan spoke up. The humans deceived us, yes, but they also saved thousands of lives today. They could have revealed themselves and demanded payment for their assistance. Instead, they simply helped because it was the right thing to do. Vashin added, and their infiltration, while concerning, never caused harm to council interests. In fact, human agents helped improve system efficiency in multiple departments. They were good neighbors, even while hiding their true nature. Veth looked around the room, seeing humans and aliens working side by side despite the revelations and tensions of the day. You truly believe cooperation is possible after everything that has been done? Foster stepped forward. I have lived here for 12 years. I have friends among council species, people who trusted me. Today, I hurt them with my deception. But we are still working together because the alternative is extinction. If we can build bridges in the middle of a crisis, imagine what we could do with time and genuine effort. The negotiations continued for days. The architect fleet withdrew from Earth but remained in system. Slowly, piece by piece, a new framework emerged. The architects would cease harvesting operations. The council would provide resources and research support to develop defenses against the harvesters. Earth would share technology reverse-engineered from Marcus's ship. And together, all 3 parties would prepare for a threat that might arrive in decades or centuries. Trust was not instant. The council demanded full disclosure of all human infiltration, which Hayes provided. The architects opened their historical archives, revealing the full extent of their harvesting across the galaxy. Humans agreed to transparent oversight of future operations. 3 months after first contact, Riley stood in the observation deck of Station Harmony with Dr. Orthan. Below them, Earth rotated peacefully, no longer under threat of harvest. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "This alliance?" "I think we have a chance, more than we would have had if everyone stayed isolated." Riley looked at his friend. "Are we okay, you and me?" "We are working on it. Trust has to be rebuilt, not just declared." She smiled slightly. "But you did save my life 3 times during the crisis. That counts for something." Rilland joined them, carrying data tablets for both. "New assignments. The Council is creating a joint task force to locate other species the architects harvested. With your experience in both human and Council systems, Riley, you are being requested to lead it. And you, Dr. Orthan, are assigned as his partner. Someone needs to keep him honest." The 3 of them laughed, the sound echoing in the observation deck. Outside, human and Council ships patrolled together. Architect vessels worked alongside them, former enemies becoming cautious allies. First contact had not been what anyone expected. It had been messy, complicated, built on deception, and revealed through crisis. But perhaps that made the resulting alliance stronger. They had seen each other at their worst and chosen cooperation anyway. As Riley watched Earth below, he thought about Marcus, the architect who had chosen to help humanity instead of reporting their location. His legacy was not just the technology he had shared or the warnings he had given. It was the idea that cycles could be broken, that victims did not have to become perpetrators, that there was always another choice. The harvesters would come eventually, but when they did, they would face not scattered, frightened species, but a united galaxy that had learned to trust despite every reason not to. That was humanity's real first contact. Not the meeting itself, but the choice to build something better from the ashes of deception.